Alright, our speech was The Perils of Indifference by Eli Wiesel. Eli Wiesel was a Jewish boy who lived in Nazi Germany during the time of the ethnic cleansing. Um, he gave his speech on April 12th, 1999 at the White House as a Millennium Lecture. He gave it to the President Congress, Miss Clinton, and Ambassador Holbrooke, as well as an audience. The purpose of the event was to remember the past and bring recognition to those events. He was trying to accomplish the fact that being indifferent is worse than being evil.
Perils of Indifference by Eli Wiesel is effective because of his use of appeal to pity, ethos, logos, and pathos.
He appeals to pity in the very beginning of his speech when he tells a story about when he was in Austria in a concentration camp. His use of appeal to pity allows the audience to open up to what he's got to hear, what he's got to say.
He uses logos to logically appeal to the audience. He uses facts, like the example. He says that 1,000 people from a concentration camp made it to American soil on a boat, but were then sent back. It's logical because, of course, it's a fact, and you can't argue it. So it's not subject to bias. So it gives him credibility.
And he uses ethos in his speech because he is a survivor of the Holocaust, and he has gone to such camp, Buchenwald, Auschwitz, and Birkenau, and this gives him credibility because he's qualified to talk about the Holocaust and give his opinion because he was a victim of it. He uses ethos in saying that if you're indifferent, you are benefiting the aggressor, and the aggressor in this situation would be Nazi Germany. And this gives his speech ethos because no one would side with Nazi Germany because they're morally bad in popular culture. So in this quote he says, "Surely those leaders would have moved heaven and earth to intervene," because the Holocaust was obviously a terrible thing, and if someone found out about it, they would. He says that they would obviously intervene, but he uses this to say that they didn't intervene, and to explain how that's a bad thing, because they were being indifferent in a time when everyone's conscience would have said that this needed to stop.
Eli Wiesel professionally presents a plethora of pathos throughout this particular passage. In his flashbacks, he uses pathos to make the audience feel sympathetic and make his audience feel sympathetic. He also uses the example of 1,000 Jewish people getting sent back to Germany to again make the audience feel sympathetic and sway their views to what he's got to say, to his viewpoint.
Okay. In his speech, Eli Wiesel was against the U.S. government at the time of World War II. He blamed them for being there so long. Again, he said sure those leaders would have moved heaven and earth to intervene, but he says that they did not. They remained indifferent. He is opposed to indifference. He uses both the U.S. government and religion as an example, saying that all the Jews felt like God had forgotten them. So, rather than being primarily or just targeting the U.S. government, he is targeting indifference as he uses a lot of imagery in his speech. In the beginning, when he goes to his flashback, he describes a scene of him as a young boy being taken away from his home and into a ghetto and then into ultimately a concentration camp. He also uses parallel structure. on the second page when he says, the political prisoner in his cell, the hungry children, the homeless refugees. This doesn't, I mean, this just makes his speech flow a lot better, makes it a lot easier to listen to, a lot easier to read. His delivery, the first impression that he gives is that he's very respectful towards the United States government and very thankful for being liberated by them in a concentration camp, for setting him free. In the video that we watched of his speech, he was dressed appropriately for the event and seemed very respectful and formal.
Eli Wiesel uses repetition to convey his message. As you can see by this lovely wordle we got here, that he repeats victim and indifference several times throughout his speech. This emphasizes the importance of the evils of indifference.
The evils of indifference. Eli Wiesel's word choice is appropriate. He formally addresses the audience and uses strong words such as hate and evil to compare them to indifference. This helps to convey his message, because he is trying to convey the message that indifference is worse than hate or evil. And by comparing hate and evil to indifference, he's conveying his message, because indifference isn't usually thought of as a strong word or worse than hate or evil. But when he uses the two in a comparison, he gets his point across to say that indifference is worse than hate or evil.
Signing off, it's Kevin, Sam, John.